Hervé Francois here with the DeRosa Group. Our second edition here, Market Hunter Thursday with Hervé. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. The gentleman that we have on today is Mr. Jamie Rose from Anchorage, Alaska. Jamie, thanks again so much for being on the show. Let's kick it off, man. Tell us, how did you get started in real estate investing? And particularly, I guess you could have figured out a lot of different areas that you wanted to do your investing. Why Anchorage, Alaska?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Hervé. Why real estate? For me, it started as a family story. Grew up with working class parents and a little bit of serendipity, a little bit of my dad always having an interest in it. But one day when I was maybe 13, our neighbor came across the yard and said, "Hey," to my father, said, "Hey, Dave, I'm moving back to Texas. You got to buy my fourplex." Oh. And my dad said, "Thank you, Max, but I don't think that's going to work out for us." He said, "No, I got a buddy. He'll write you the loan. It'll work out. It's a good deal. Trust me, Dave." And looked into it. My dad went for it, and it really made a difference for our family. You know, my parents were public educators in the school district where we lived at the time, out in the valley. We call it Wasilla area. And it really made a difference. But they ended up leveraging that into a second fourplex. And I just grew up, vacuuming the common areas, getting the quarters out of the machines. As soon as I was 16, I was going there myself to do chores and help out a little bit. And so that really planted a seed for me and for my siblings even that, hey, this is something that we could do. And so when I got married and we moved back to Anchorage and my wife and I had saved up a little bit of change, we just jumped into it and said, all right, let's get our first investment property. And here we are, years later. And
what was that about, Jamie?
When we got our first one?
Yeah.
That would have been 9 years ago, 9 years ago. Yeah.
All right. So talk to us about how many units do you have under management right now?
Personally invested in, we've got 15 in town. We just sold off a couple this summer, did some renovation and cashed out. So now we're kind of in the acquisition phase again, looking at some properties here in town, especially here and in the valley, and looking for kind of, those value add opportunities and just seeing what deals we can dig up. So looking to grow. I think this will be, I don't know that anything will happen before the end of the calendar as far as closing goes, but I'd say this winter probably be a big growth phase for us on the personal front, which always exciting.
Awesome, man. I mean, one of the things about ourselves, if you had heard me, earlier, is that we the DeRosa Group, we don't really focus targeting on the primary markets. Listen, a lot of folks go over there, they do extraordinarily well. When I mean the primary markets, the bigger markets such as Dallas, Orlando, and things like that. We really like the opportunities that we find in secondary and tertiary markets. Anchorage, Alaska itself, you just just under 300,000 population, with a nice size medium income, just around $80,000. What makes investing in Anchorage very attractive for you? Are there still the opportunities today as there might have been a few years ago?
Yeah, we've got an interesting market for sure. I mean, Alaska in and of itself is going to be different, right, than the rest of the states. What's interesting about Anchorage is for the whole state, it truly is a bit of a hub and spoke system. We have a lot of really remote communities that can only get access to major healthcare and shopping through Anchorage. So we have an incredibly busy airport, and people from all over the state pile in here to do their shopping. Even if they want to go down to Seattle, they're coming through Anchorage. If they want to go, take a vacation, take a trip, go see family, whatever. So we, in Anchorage, it's truly like the hub of the whole state. Naturally, there's a little bit of exception to any rule, but that's something that creates a dynamic for Anchorage. And then we're backed up to the Chugach Mountains and then Cook Inlet, which is the Gulf of Alaska, the Pacific Ocean. So we have a limited supply of land here. We've got mountains, ocean on basically every side. And then we have this demand for services that piles into this few square miles that is Anchorage. Alaska is also a pretty heavy oil and gas state. We don't have income taxes. We don't have any statewide taxes. We don't have any sales tax. in fact, residents get a roughly about $1,000 check every fall, just for living here to help with cost of living or however you want to spend it. I mean, people spend it different ways, of course, but so we have some unique dynamics for sure. With the collapse in some oil prices during the COVID pandemic here, it's raised some questions for some people, but we see a lot of activity still on those fronts. Ask me another question there.
All right. No,
flex that out a little bit.
Yeah. No, I like it. When you take a look at the market of multifamily in Anchorage, what kind of categories would you say the majority fit that they fit in, whether it's and as well, what are some of your investment criteria? When I talk about that, I'm talking about cap rates, the type of the complex, whether it's type A, type B, type C. Do you do value add? Are you more for appreciation, or do you do cash flow? Are you more for appreciation? And is there like a particular number of size of units that's more the average in the area that you particularly focus on, or is smaller set?
I think we have. I think Anchorage especially is pretty unique for cities of this size because we have a lot of fourplexes, quads, you might call them, here, where I know a lot of cities don't. A lot of it's larger commercial. If you look at Chicago, you can find plenty of 20, 30, 40 unit buildings, but not a lot of fourplexes. So here we have a really great kind of entry level market for people who want to take advantage of some owner occupancy loans. But then, I've owned and held a couple sixplexes. There's a lot of kind of 6 to 12 unit buildings too, to get your feet wet in the commercial side. Every now and then we have some larger assets, come around on market. One just popped up yesterday for 46 units, but that's less common here in our city. And then personally, I'm still looking at kind of that B class cash flow property. I mean, I want the appreciation, but that the cash flow is still going to help me fuel more deals, more quickly, fuel further investment. So I and most of my clients, I work full time as an agent and a broker, and most of my clients are looking for some cash flow too. I think that's why you invest in some of these tertiary markets, right?
Sure.
We'd all love to own, prime class A in Manhattan or San Francisco, but those are more wealth preservation techniques than growth.
Any kind of cash flow. Yeah. No, that makes sense. When you're going after these type of properties, what is the competitive landscape look like, from an investor standpoint? Are majority investors local? Is there known to be a good amount of investors from, outside of Alaska that look for opportunities for some of those fourplexes and sixplexes that you talk about out there?
There's a high demand for the residential side, the 2 to 4. There's plenty of people here who are happy to own or occupy some of those properties to start out. And a lot of them are built, even to live in long term with, townhouse style, couple car garage, the whole, nicer properties. So there's a high demand for that. But I don't see a lot of out of state money coming in. I think there's too many question marks around what Alaska is like for a lot of people. So I think it just has kept a lot of that money away. Every now and then we see a little bit of money trickle up from Washington. People who are, maybe pulling money out of Seattle, and they being so much closer to us, I think are more comfortable understanding our market. When I'm on the Bigger Pockets blog and people are asking questions about Alaska, usually people who aren't here think, oh man, the heating costs have to be out of this world.
Right.
But the thing is when I've compared with other markets out of state, they're not. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, we build our properties to be insulated for winter. And then the other is because we're a gas state, our natural gas costs here are really low. Just to give you an example, an average fourplex here, if it might have a $200 a month bill to heat through the coldest months, 3-4 months. I know there's plenty of markets paying similar costs to heat, and then we don't have any AC costs in the summer.
Sure, right.
So utility costs actually here are pretty minimal.
What would you say what about property taxes? Are they typically, are they manageable, so to speak? When I'm at all the way the other end of the spectrum here in New Jersey. We're number one in the country for property taxes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So it's relative for sure.
like.
We're not I'd say our property taxes, feel middle of the road, maybe a little on the higher side because we don't have any other taxes. So I think I notice, you might pay about $1,000 a year per unit in taxes, depending on the property, especially as you go commercial. So, it is a significant expense, but yeah, it's not Chicago or New Jersey or some of the heavier tax parts of the country.
Got it. You mentioned the oil and gas industry, not surprisingly being the primary, economic driver in your region. Is there another industry, right behind the oil and gas industry that has been, making some ground that's going to add some diversification to the job base over there, or is it predominantly oil and gas?
No, there's a few major industries, or at least employers. A couple of the big ones would be military. We have 2 bases right here in Anchorage, Elmendorf and Richardson. And those have only grown over the past few decades with the concerns about our neighbors in North Korea or Russia or China. So there's that. We have one of the busiest shipping airports in the country because of our Asian connection. So a lot of transportation comes through Anchorage, a lot of air transportation, I should say. Tourism has not slowed down in the last 20 years. It just picks up steam. Alaska's kind of a bucket list destination for people. And so we see that grow year after year. And then we have a lot of other resources. So fishing's a big one, commercial fishing, that's grown, as well as mining. We have some of the bigger mines in the country too here. And those continue to grow. I mean, people kind of roll that in with oil and gas sometimes, but it's a very different industry. As we see the demand for oil and gas at times decline, the demand for, rare earth and other minerals just actually continues to grow as people want to build more batteries or electronics. Maybe I'd make 2 more comments. One would be, I had mentioned to you off camera earlier just about healthcare. Anchorage itself is a huge healthcare hub for the whole state. We have a few major hospitals, and people travel throughout the state to Anchorage for most medical. We also are the home here to most of the headquarters for Alaska Native corporations. Back in 1979, short story, the state settled with a lot of the Alaska Native groups here in the form of land and money, and those Native groups formed corporations. And so there's more than a couple multi-billion-dollar corporations headquartered here with a mandate to improve quality of life here. Like, they'll never leave, right? Like, they're not going to outsource that work to any other place. It's embedded in Alaska. So we have these corporations that, they might own hotels in Florida, but all that money comes back to Anchorage, and those jobs stay here. So there's a few different aspects to our economy that hit those high notes.
Man, that's awesome. That's nice to know, because that's one of our mantras when we target a particular market. We like to see diversification within an industry, diversification within a job, so that one market is not reliant just upon that one industry. And God forbid, through the economic cycles that we have and so much uncertainty out there that, we're not tied to, especially in this COVID pandemic that we're living in right now, right? I mean, as you can know, hospitality, retailers, restaurants have, taken such a huge hit and whatnot. So you can see unemployment, for example, in Las Vegas is the highest in the country right now, because it's hospitality and tourism, no surprise, and things like that. So we like to kind of spread it out, whatnot. And I think, that also definitely helps out with the cash flow. Jamie, what can we do for you to help your business in any way out there in Anchorage, Alaska?
Oh, okay. I was not expecting that question. Hey, come visit us, man. I think, I'd love to play host or at least a tour guide, point you in the right direction. Come visit us. If there is anybody out there interested in investing here, I'd love to, answer some questions and and again, play tour guide if somebody wants to come take a look. Or, I'm looking actually at putting together a syndication for some larger assets in the Anchorage area. So if you have people who are curious about that, or if there's a partnership there that you want to work towards, that'd be cool too. That's an exciting, venture.
Yeah. So the syndication asset, what kind of asset in particular we're talking about?
Multifamily. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Looking for, kind of in that 20 to 40 unit space. So kind of smaller, on the grand scheme of commercial, but big enough to access, the better loan rates. And
I mean, to that vein, that's kind of interesting. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because if investors are interested, in participating in something like that, we put your contact information right there on the screen so they can email you or call you.
Great.
Details about that. Yeah. On when you talk about the syndicated deals, when it comes to property management, whether it's going to be for this deal or for some of the real estate that you own, do you guys use, third-party property managers, or do you pretty much, the PM for your properties?
Right now, I've run that stuff in-house. Okay. I mean, I have enough systems and kind of team members in place to make it work for me. Not full-time staff, but kind of contractors that I'll use for different pieces. That's the way forward right now. I think, for like the syndication deal, I will be hands-on the first few years to get rents up and get all the value back into the building, then probably hand it over to third party. I have plenty of colleagues in that area that I would trust with it. So, but I'm, especially when you're doing some of your first deals like that, I want the control, and I want to, sure, as much as possible, deliver those results to co-investors and to myself. So got it. I'm pretty hands-on.
That's great to hear. And this is a typical B class property, pretty much up your alley, cash flow generating property.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I believe in the phrase, golden bees, where the bees get the G's. I just think that's where the money's at.
Amen.
Amen, you get cash flow and appreciation, and I'm happy there.
Cool. Okay, well, listen, man, if we're going to pre-plan our trip, listen, Anchorage is you well know, is known very much for their outdoors, their lakes, their mountains, fishing, hiking. If you were to put a sample itinerary together for us, what would that look like? Something unique, considering, like you said, it is a town, a state that is on a lot of people's bucket list. What would you recommend?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, Alaska's huge, right? 2.5 times the size of Texas. So wow. I always want my friends coming to visit to get out on the water. You got to get out. So Homer, an itinerary would probably start or end in Anchorage, and you need to get down to Homer, get out on the ocean, maybe do some halibut fishing, see all the glaciers you can see from the ocean there. Yep. And then from there, stop through the sport fishing capital, basically, of the world, in the Russian River, down Kenai area, Kenai River. Maybe float that river, look for some brown bears fishing with you, and then go through Girdwood, maybe go up to the Seven Glaciers restaurant, take the tram up the skiing and biking mountain there, check that out. And I mean, it's hard to come to here and not go a little further north and go see Denali, the biggest mountain in all of North America, and just a majestic place. Maybe Kasugi Ridge there would be a little off the beaten path. It depends on the person, right? If you always cater your trip towards somebody's ability and desire to be physically active. Maybe a flight seeing tour for one group of people, and maybe a hiking overnight backpacking trip for another. But do you want to come in June or July, really?
Really?
Or early August? Yeah, I always feel a little bad for the people who show up in May and are expecting summer, and we're not in summer mode here till June.
People, please feel free to reach out to Jamie. Again, his contact information is right there, jamesd.rose@gmail.com, with his phone number there as well. Ask him anything about Anchorage, Alaska overall, or if you'd like to get some more details about this syndicated offering that he's putting together, please feel free to reach out to him. James, thanks so much again for being with us.
Pleasure is mine.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that snow doesn't bury you and your family too much, man. But
we'll have fun. Hey, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, guys, listen, take care. And anyone, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Have a great Thursday. aim high, and happy hunting. Talk to you guys soon.